present here, our respected Vice Principal Sir, Professor Apurva Roy, respected Bursar, Dr. Manush Kobi, IQAC Coordinator, Dr. Sriparna Dottore, Convener, Committee for Postgraduate Studies, Dr. Sajal Bhattacharya, all my colleagues and my beloved students. I, Dr. Anindita De, feel extremely privileged and honored to introduce myself in today's Students' Colloquium to celebrate the International Day for Biological Diversity organized by the Department of Botany in collaboration with IQAC Asutosh College. Biodiversity starts in the distant past and it points towards the future. Look closely at the nature. Every species is a masterpiece, exquisitely adapted to the particular environment in which it has survived. Biodiversity remains the answer to several sustainable developmental challenges, from nature-based solutions to climate, health issues, food and water security, and sustainable livelihood. Biodiversity is the foundation upon which we can build back better. So, who are we to diminish biodiversity? The value of biodiversity is that it makes our ecosystem more resilient, which is prerequisite for stable societies. Its wanton destruction is akin to setting fire to our lifeboat. However, the biodiversity today is threatened by several human activities. Therefore, all the biodiversities reserved must be protected at all costs by taking necessary steps. We must convince and empower people to adopt the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity as their guiding principle. Today, the 22nd May is the International Day for Biological Diversity, celebrated each year, aims to increase understanding and awareness of biodiversity issues. This year, biodiversity slogan, Building a Shared Future for All Life, was chosen to continue building momentum and support for the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework to be adopted at the upcoming UN Biodiversity Conference COP15. Today, our speakers are our enthusiastic students of even semesters. They have confidence, they have potency, lots of energy, and a most powerful mind to think in versatility. So definitely, their presentation will enrich us regarding the diversity in living beings, especially in plant community. Finally, quoting from our great Swami Vivekananda, I want to boost my dear students. We are what our thoughts have made us. So take care about what you think. Words are secondary. Thoughts live, they travel far. Now, giving thanks to all of you for attending today's colloquium, now I request first our respected Vice Principal Sir, Professor Apurva Roy, to say something about today's program. Sir, please continue, sir. Sir.
IQAC সহযোগিতায় যে ওয়েবিনারটা অর্গানাইজ করছি বটানি ডিপার্টমেন্ট থেকে, তাতে আমার সবচেয়ে ভালো লাগলো স্পিকার হিসেবে 3টে সেমিস্টারের 10 জন স্টুডেন্ট এতে বক্তা হিসেবে দেখতে পাবে। আমার কাছে এটা খুবই আনন্দের, কারণ আমরা নর্মালি স্টুডেন্টদের এভাবে এগিয়ে আসতে দেখি না। আজকে আমরা অতি অবশ্যই তাদের কাছ থেকে মূল্যবান বক্তব্য শুনবো এবং তাদের আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং আমাদের টিচাররা শেয়ার করে নেবে। দরকার হলে সেটার কিছু কারেকশনও করা যেতে পারে পরবর্তীকালে, কিন্তু তাদেরকে বুস্ট করার জন্য এই ধরনের উদ্যোগ বিশেষভাবে কাম্য। আমি তোমাদের বটানি ডিপার্টমেন্টের সবাইকে এই ব্যাপারে সাধুবাদ জানাচ্ছি। এখানে যারা প্রেজেন্ট আছেন আমাদের টিচারদের মধ্যে সবাইকে অশেষ ধন্যবাদ, এবং আমি বিশেষ করে ধন্যবাদ দেব সমস্ত স্টুডেন্টদের যারা এই ব্যাপারে এগিয়ে এসছো এবং যারা এই প্রোগ্রাম শোনার জন্য রেডি হয়েছে। আমরা জানি যে 22শে মে এটা সাস্টেনেবল ডেভেলপমেন্টের একটা দিক উন্মোচন করে। নানা বছর এটাকে এনভায়রনমেন্টের একটা বিশেষ দিন বলে ধরা হয়। আমাদের যেটা অতি অবশ্যই জানার এবং বোঝার যে আমাদের চারপাশে ডেভেলপমেন্টের যে সমস্ত ডিফারেন্ট লাইফ অর্গান গুলো আছে তাদের মধ্যে মানুষই একমাত্র যে এদের প্রিজার্ভেশন, কনজারভেশন এবং এদেরকে রেস্টোর করার দায়িত্ব নিতে পারে। গাছ, জন্তু জানোয়ার, পশু পাখি এই সবকিছুই আমাদের নেচারকে পুষ্ট করে, সমৃদ্ধ করে। মানুষ তাকে রক্ষণাবেক্ষণের দায়িত্ব না নিলে সেটা আমাদের পৃথিবীর পক্ষে খুবই মুশকিল। এই ভাবনাটা আমাদের স্টুডেন্টদের মধ্যে ছড়িয়ে দিতে হবে যে এই দায়িত্বটা নিতে কিন্তু মানুষকেই হয়েছে এবং ভবিষ্যতেও হবে। জন্তু জানোয়ার তার নিজস্ব লার্নিং অনুযায়ী তারা পরিবেশকে রক্ষা করে, কিন্তু মানুষ পরিবেশকে যেমন ধ্বংস করে তেমনি উদ্যোগ না নিলে আমাদের কিন্তু ভবিষ্যৎ অত্যন্ত ক্ষতিকর হবে। কাজেই আমরা এই দিকটা নজরে রেখে আমাদের স্টুডেন্টদের কাছ থেকে মূল্যবান বক্তব্য শুনবো আজকের এই দিনে। বটানি ডিপার্টমেন্টকে আবার ধন্যবাদ, কলেজের IQAC সেলকে ধন্যবাদ, তারা এইরকম একটা উদ্যোগ নিয়ে কলেজের সবাইকে শিক্ষিত করে তোলার জন্য। ধন্যবাদ।
Thank you, sir. Your motivated speech definitely inspired our students. Thanks a lot. Now I request our bursar sir, Dr. Manush Kobi, to say us few words about this program. Sir, please.
ধন্যবাদ। আজকের কলেজে এক কথায় বলা যায় সেমিনার ডে চলছে। সকালে জুলজি ডিপার্টমেন্টের সেমিনার চমৎকার হয়েছে শুনলাম। আমি থাকতে পারিনি, কিন্তু আপনাদেরটায় থাকতেই হলো। সুপত্রা ম্যাডাম HOD আমাকে SMS পাঠিয়েছেন, অনিন্দিতা ম্যাডাম ফোন করেছিলেন, ধরতে পারিনি। যাই হোক, ভালো লাগছে এই কারণেই যে বেশ কিছুদিন আগে, সম্ভবত 2012 বা 13 হবে, সময় জীবনানন্দের কাব্যে উদ্ভিদ ও প্রাণী এরকম একটি বিষয় নিয়ে আমি মাইনর রিসার্চ প্রজেক্ট করেছিলাম, ইউজিসি স্পন্সর্ড, যেটা আমার কো ইনভেস্টিগেটর ছিলেন বটানির জ্যোতির্ময় ঘোষ, এবং জুলজি থেকে প্রফেসর বিনায়ক মিশ্র। সেটা কমপ্লিট হয়েছে। তো আজকের এই ইন্টারন্যাশনাল ডে ফর বায়োলজিক্যাল ডাইভার্সিটি আমাদের বটানি ডিপার্টমেন্ট উদযাপন করছে, খুবই আনন্দের। সেই সঙ্গে আজকের আরেকটি বিশেষ কারণে আমাদের বাংলার কাছে একটা জনপ্রিয় বা গৌরবময় দিন, তার কারণ আজকের দিনে ভারত পথিক রাজা রামমোহন রায় জন্মেছিলেন। তারও জন্মের সার্ধ-দ্বিশত বর্ষ জন্ম জয়ন্তী পালন হচ্ছে আজকের। ফলত সব মিলিয়ে দিনটা অত্যন্ত গৌরবের, এবং তার সঙ্গে আশুতোষ কলেজ বটানি ডিপার্টমেন্টের প্রিয় ছাত্রছাত্রীরা তারা আজকের এই বিষয়ের উপরে তাদের বক্তব্য উপস্থাপন করবে। ভাইস প্রিন্সিপাল স্যার বলেছেন, এটাও আমাদের কাছে অত্যন্ত গৌরবের। আমি বিভাগীয় প্রধানকে অনুরোধ করব যে তাদের বক্তব্য বিষয় এবং অন্যান্য যারা বলছেন তাদের সেই বক্তব্যগুলোকে নিয়ে যদি একটা গ্রন্থ প্রকাশ করা যায়, এটা খুবই ভালো হবে আমাদের কাছে। সুপত্রা ম্যাডাম এবং বিভাগীয় সকল শ্রদ্ধেয় সদস্যদের কলেজের পক্ষ থেকে অভিনন্দন। এরকম একটি চমৎকার অনুষ্ঠান আপনারা আয়োজন করেছেন, ধন্যবাদ। আমরা অধীর আগ্রহে থাকব বক্তব্য বিষয় শুনবার জন্য। আমি যদি আগের থেকে একটু জানতে পারতাম, মানে করছেন এটা অতটা ডিপে ঢুকিনি তো, কিন্তু জীব বৈচিত্র্য নিয়ে আমিও কিছু আপনাদের এই ওয়েবিনারে বলতে পারতাম, মানে মিস করছি। এখন তো হট করে বলা যায় না, প্রিপারেশন নেই, কিন্তু এটা আমার কাছে খুবই ইন্টারেস্টিং টপিক। তো পরবর্তীকালে ইচ্ছা রইল যে এই বিষয়ের উপরে অল্প করে কিছু কথা বলবার। ধন্যবাদ।
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Manush Kavi, for your inspiring and encouraging speech. Definitely, we'll keep in mind your suggestion that if the students that will give the presentation, if they can prepare a book chapter or any kind of this, okay. And definitely, in this program, we miss your presentation and your talk. If you can say something about the biodiversity at the end of the program, then we'll be very much grateful to you. If possible, you can please tell us. Definitely, sir. Now I request our IQAC coordinator, Dr. Sriporna Dottore, to please say something about today's colloquium. Please, Dr. Ray.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Dr. Lee. Thank you so much. In the very beginning, let me thank you all for inviting me to today's event, the Students' Colloquium. As we are all aware, this date of the 22nd of May 2022 marks the International Day for Biological Diversity. These are such occasions to enrich further our primary stakeholders, our beloved students. And it gives me an immense pleasure to see that our students are acting as resource persons for today's event. The IQAC cell of Asutosh College has always embraced these days as a very powerful and a potential tool for guiding our future generations for the years to come. Without wasting any further time, I wish all the participants the very best for their deliberation, and I wish this event a grand success. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ray. Your valuable thoughts definitely encourage our students. Thanks a lot. Now I request convener of the postgraduate committee, Dr. Sajal Bhattacharya, to say something, to a few words to us. Sir, please continue, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Anindita, respected Vice Principal, Professor Apurva Rai, Dr. Manush Kobi Barsar, Dr. Sriparna Datta Rai, IQAC Coordinator, HOD Zoology, HOD Dr. Supatra Sen, former IQAC Coordinator, Dr. Tathagata Rai Chaudhary, dear colleagues, beloved students. It is indeed a great pleasure and privilege also to be in this students' colloquium on building a shared future for all life. On the occasion of the United Nations designated International Day for Biodiversity, Biological Diversity. I may be allowed to say a few words as asked for by Dr. Dept on this occasion. But I am eagerly waiting for this. I'm very excited to listen to the student speakers. And I myself an alumnus of this college and also the Department of Botany, because I did my undergraduate botany course in this department. Now, in order to maintain ecological homeostasis and proper functioning of ecosystem at local level and also global level, conservation of biodiversity should get the top priority to the policymakers. Otherwise, humans will be an endangered species in near future. So this is for our survival. Deforestation, unplanned and rampant urbanization, pollution, greed for exploiting natural resources, irrational consumerism and market economy, I guess mostly responsible for the rapid loss of flora and fauna all over the world. And students are the speakers. It gives me, and already our vice principal and Barsar, they have mentioned about the significance of their participation in this webinar. And I think that students are the key stakeholders of any academic institute, and they are the future. And their engagement in any form, in any program and projects are of prime importance. Now, the theme of this International Day for Biological Diversity today, in these years, is building a shared future for all. Already mentioned it. But I would like to add that all forms of life, for their health and well-being, and make this world a better place for not only for us, but for the posterity, for the future generations. I appreciate the faculty members of the Department of Botany for their endeavor in engaging these students in this direction. I thank you all for giving me a patient hearing. Thank you. And I wish the Colloquium, Students Colloquium, a great success. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Sajal Bhattacharya, your motivated speech definitely enrich and encourage our students. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Now I request one of our senior teacher, Dr. Shoma Haldar, to say something about the program on behalf of Department of Botany. Madam, please.
Thank you, Anindita. First of all, I must tell that we all are assembled here to observe the International Day of Biodiversity from our Asutosh College Botany Department. And for this purpose, we have given chance to the students to tell their words, because we all know that to conserve the biodiversity and to progress, they are the main torch bearer, the next generation, who will protect our planet to conserve the biodiversity for a better living in future. And they will share their thoughts in this aspect. We all are very much eager to know their new ideas, various thoughts to solve the problems faced by the human civilization. And they, from their words, some discussion, and from their discussion, something must come out to solve the problems. Because we all know that we are the main community, the human beings are the main community to take the responsibility to conserve our biosphere, so that not only we, all other organisms can thrive here in a better way. And the next generation, not only us, the next generation will show us the path by which we can do it. But we all must remember that not only celebrating a single day in a year, or by discussing or by talking about the plan, will not bring the success of observation of this day. The students, you must all remember that it is a continuous process which should be maintained in our everyday life by using the organic foods, the conservation of energy, to keep the planet pollution free, which is most important for living not only us, for other organisms, that is from starting from the microorganisms to higher plants and animals in a healthy ecosystem. So I won't say anymore. We are expecting a lot from you. I hope that you will all perform better, and we will listen some good discussion from you all, starting from the second semester, fourth semester, and the sixth semester. Thanking you all to be here, and all the listeners, so that they can be encouraged properly. Thanking you all.
Thank you, madam. And thanks to Dr. Shoma Haldar for encouraging and inspiring us with your words. And as you do it always in the department also, to our students too. Thanks to all. Now I request our present HOD madam, Dr. Supatra Sen, to host the mainstream. Our mainstream program will start now. That's our student presentation. So, madam, please, you please continue.
Thank you, Anindita, the convener of today's program. You have done so well. Thank you, my department, for all being there. And of course, our very esteemed Vice Principal, sir, our bursar, sir, Professor Shajul Bhattacharya, and of course, our IQAC convener, Dr. Sri Porna Dattave. Thank you. It's a privilege to be hosting you all. But at the same time, I'm a little nervous because we have tried to train our students. There are 10 of them, but they are very confident. We are nervous, but they are confident. And they are going to talk about different aspects of biodiversity. We have chosen our students as our resource persons because they are our future. We talk of sustainability. What more sustainable action can we take than to let our students occupy the center stage? Because they are the future think tanks. They are, going to be our guiding factors in all matters, not only biodiversity, but in all matters related to the environment. So here's welcoming our first speaker, Romila Pal, from the 6th semester. And Romila, here's wishing you all the best for your presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon to all my respected professors, fellow classmates and juniors. I am Romila Pal, student of 6th Sem of Botany Department of Asutosh College. Today, on International Day for Biological Diversity, I would like to present my PPT on the topic Biodiversity of Carnivorous Plants. Now, I am starting. Ma'am, am I visible?
Absolutely. You're audible and visible. Yes, the slides are visible. Absolutely. Carry on.
Biodiversity has always been an interesting and untamed part of the earth for human beings, even though they are much closer to each other. Many of its parts are unexplored, and from primitive to modern era, researchers are trying to unfold its mystery. Among the various parts of biodiversity, plants play a huge role. Plant species, we all know, are commonly consumed by the herbivores. But there are some plants which consume insects or small animals and play the role of predators in the living kingdom of biodiversity. Why carnivorous plants? Well, we are accustomed to thinking of plants as being immobile and harmless. And this may be a reason for our fascination with carnivorous plants, and especially about those that move while trapping. The carnivorous lifestyle of plants has resulted in significant adaptive and functional implications. The most obvious manifestation of our interest is the emergence of traps. They originate from leaves. They have become specialized in trapping, prey digestion, and nutrient absorption, thereby decreasing their photosynthetic rates. These carnivorous plants are widespread in this world but are rarely seen. There are 630 species of carnivorous plants in India. In India, there are 40 plant species that are reported as carnivorous plants. Now, what is the nature of these carnivorous plants? We already know that these plants obtain their nutrients from various invertebrates and insects. Those carnivorous plants which consume insects are also known as insectivorous plants. The insectivorous plants are found mostly in wet, damp, humid, and acidic soil that is deficient in nutrients such as bogs, wetlands, coastal plains, etc. They are found in the wet regions of North America, Australia, and tropical regions. The insectivorous plants are colorful and shiny in appearance to attract prey. They often have nectar and a pleasant odor to attract insects. Next, they are found in the places where there is a lack of some nutrients, especially nitrogen. They entrap insects and digest them to suffice their nitrogen requirement. Some carnivorous plants secrete digestive enzymes that dissolve the insects for absorption. Others have bacteria in their digestive tract that mimic the functions of the human digestive tract. They digest the prey for absorption by the plants. And lastly, the trapping mechanism. Many insectivorous plants have special or modified plant parts to trap insects. The mouth of the carnivorous plant has hairline edges that snap or shut as soon as the insect touches the hair, thereby trapping the insects. Some of the plant's stalks are covered with sticky mucus-like substances where the insect sticks and cannot move. Here, we are going to discuss about the different types of traps. Carnivorous plants basically have two types of traps, that is active traps and passive traps. What is active trap? In this trap system, plant species do not move physically. During the trapping of prey, it has two actions, such as pitfall trap and flypaper or sticky trap. You can see here the example of pitfall trap and flypaper trap. Pitfall traps of feature plants are leaves folded into deep, slippery pools filled with digestive enzymes. Flypaper or sticky or adhesive traps of sundews and butterworts are leaves covered in stalked glands that exude sticky mucilage. Now, passive traps. In this trap system, plant species move their trapping parts. It has three actions, such as snap trap, bladder trap, and lobster pot trap. Snap trap or steel trap of the Venus flytrap and water-wheel plant are hinged leaves that snap shut when trigger hairs are touched. Unique to bladderwort are highly modified leaves in the shape of a bladder with a hinged door lined with trigger hairs. In case of lobster pot traps of corkscrew plants, they are twisted tubular channels lined with hairs and glands. Digestion in carnivorous plants. It happens in two ways. Number one, active secretion of enzymes, and number two, symbiotic digestive mechanism. What is active secretion of enzymes? Carnivorous plants must use enzymes to digest their prey. Most carnivorous plants, such as Venus flytraps, sundews, and butterworts, and many genera of feature plants, all make their own digestive enzymes. And in symbiotic digestive mechanism, other carnivorous plants, such as Helium flora, rely on bacteria to produce the appropriate enzyme. In this case, the plant themselves do not excrete the digestive enzymes. The food just rots, and the carnivorous plants absorb the decomposed molecules. Many plants, such as Sarracenia, mainly Sarracenia purpurea, rely upon both their enzymes and bacterially generated enzymes. This is called symbiotic or mutualistic relationship because both organisms benefit from the cooperation. Here are some examples of carnivorous plants. Nepenthes genus of Nepenthes family, Drosophilum genus of Drosophilus family, Drosera genus of Droseraceae family, Cephalotus of Cephalotaceae family, and lastly, Sarracenia and Darlingtonia of Sarraceniaceae family. Now the ecological importance of carnivorous plants. These plant species take a direct part in the organic matter cycle, both as producers and consumers. There are significance of this group of plants in the flow of energy in the ecosystem. Digestive fluids of many insectivorous plants with feature tracts contain bacterial cultures that bind nitrogen. Therefore, they are an essential source of nitrogen, especially in places where the soil is poor in this biogen. Also, complex dependencies between predatory plants and animals should not escape our notice. And it is not just about a mere antagonistic interaction of predators. One of the most surprising findings was to discover carnivorous species that converted to vegetarianism. Researchers found plants which instead of catching insects would allow those insects to be eaten by tropical poison dart frogs and small birds. In exchange for attracting their prey, the vertebrates deficit onto their partner's plant species, thus providing a constant and far easier absorbable source of nitrogen. Some species of genus Nepenthes were also discovered, which growing on the ground allow their features to grow into the surface. As a result, some plant remains from the surrounding ground cover fall into the pitcher and are decomposed. And in the conclusion, we have to discuss the various uses of carnivorous plants. Firstly, they are used in a variety of folk preparation and medicines around Asia. Second, their woody vines can serve as loaves and their pitchers are used as pots to boil rice. And lastly, they make a great contribution in preservation of our wetlands. Thank you.
Thank you, Rumila. Now, any question from her presentation? Faculty members, her friends, students, anyone. If you have any question, you may quickly ask Romila.
Romila, I want to ask you one question. Just as a part of interaction, I'm asking you, just name some few enzymes that are being secreted by those insectivorous plants. You can answer. It's very easy to answer.
There are various enzymes.
Anyone you can answer. What it is eating, you concentrate on that, you can answer.
Eating insects.
Yes.
So, digestive enzymes. Various, I can't remember one currently.
The body is made up of protein.
Yeah.
So the enzyme would be?
Pectins.
Must be some kind of protease, I think. It's okay. Thank you. It's a very nice presentation from your part. And it's very nicely told. And it's thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Sorry, I can't answer currently. I don't remember.
No, it's the first time and it's a part of interaction. I asked you, don't take it in other way. So you could have answered. If you are in the class, you could have answered, I know. If you're feeling nervous, maybe it's okay. Very nice presentation. Thank you, Romila.
Sorry, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I have one question. I am Asutosh, one of your faculty. Romila, please tell me that where these insectivorous plants are found in India, the region.
Sorry, sir.
You please tell me where the insectivorous plants are found in India, especially the province you could answer.
Where they're found in India, the insectivorous plants.
Exactly.
They're found in tropical regions.
In the province, in the state.
The states.
Especially these plants are found in Meghalaya. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Very nice presentation.
Yes, sir.
Romila, another information that these plants growing in our locality also. A number of the plant species which are growing in the West Bengal also. Can you name the plant?
In West Bengal, the carnivorous plants.
This is in West Bengal, particularly in the South Bengal, Southwest Bengal. So there is a particular hotspot zone, you can say so. So recent research is carried on, and you can see there are a number of the plant species, carnivorous plant species. They are growing in our locality. Do you know the name of the locality where the plant is growing and the name of the plant?
No, sir. Is it feature plants? Colloquium?
Insectivorous plant. It is better to say the insectivorous plant.
Feature plants?
Feature plants বলছি না, আমি বলছি এরকম ইনসেক্টিভোরাস প্ল্যান্ট লোকালি আমাদের এখানে কনফাইন্ড অবস্থায় রয়েছে, অনেক এরকম রিজিয়ন আছে, অঞ্চল আছে, আমাদের এখানে রিসার্চ হচ্ছে। তোমার কি কোনো আইডিয়া আছে এগুলো নিয়ে? তাই বলছি
না স্যার।
Maybe Pradut, you can just tell her the answer. Yes.
Okay, now if you go to the Purulia and Bakura, there is a Jaipur zone region, okay, and also, then you can see there is a massive zonation. That is the habitat place of the Drosera vermini. So a number of the plant species growing there. So a number of the research work is carried on there also. Especially they are growing at that region. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Romila. That was a very good presentation. And now may I call Srijita Purokayastho to make her presentation.
Yes, ma'am. Hello, this is Srijita Purokayastho, and today I'm going to put
Srijita, welcome. Please make your presentation. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Today I'm going to put forward our PowerPoint presentation on this World Biodiversity Day 2022. So let me present it. And the topic of my discussion stands integrating ethnobiological knowledge into biodiversity conservation in Eastern Himalayas. So the term may be new to many of you, the ethnobiology, but in simple words, the term ethnobiology stands for the scientific study of the way living things are treated or used by different human cultures. Now, a simple example. When we contract some disease, what do? We run to a doctor, or we ask some medicines and antibiotics, especially industrially prepared medicines, and after having them, we automatically feel so good. Now imagine a distant village deep inside the Meghalayan forest. If any of their villagers falls sick, I'm very sure that the first picture coming to your mind is a tribal person collecting some leaves from the forest and making a paste of it as a curative. This is ethnobiology, where local people not only use nature, but they preserve it for their following generations. They mingle the nature and environment with their culture and lifestyles. Now, for some time, we shift our focus to the great biodiversity of the Eastern Himalayas whole. As the Eastern Himalayas comes under the biodiversity hotspot region, plenty of the animal diversity is seen in the Eastern Himalayas. As here given in the presentation, the first point shows some estimated number of species, and in the second point, we ponder on the diverseness of the invertebrates. And as you can see, the third and fourth point flags the multifoldness of the Northeast. Here is a wholesome list of heterogeneity of plant inhabiting in the northeast of India. These two slides are just a speck of the vast biodiversity that these areas nurture. Due to the lack of space and time, we had to constrain our discussion on this biodiversity till here. Now, one obvious thing is human interference is the first and foremost foe to this greenery. And preserving this biodiversity from human intervention, many government policies were constructed, many restrictions were inserted. Scientists work days and nights to find ways how the diversity of northeast of India could be saved. But really, did any of these initiatives work in the real sense? Sorry? Ma'am? বলছেন?
Sijita, you please continue.
Okay. The answer is no. But on the contrary, researchers based on which I prepared my presentation breaks these old norms that humans are harmed to this biodiversity and brings forward a new concept of how native humans use this biodiversity and how naturally they know the limit up to which they should use it, and beyond that they start preserving, recreating and sustaining for the generations to come. As I just told you earlier, in case of urban people like us, when we face any physical difficulty, we blindly opt for hospitals, antibiotic medications, and so many things. But in the inner core of jungles of the Northeast, native villagers and tribesmen, they go out to search for some plants like mentioned in here in the slide, and they know particularly which plant will be suitable for the disease, particularly which part of that plant will be useful and where to find it in these vast forests and all these things. Here are some northeastern plant species used in everyday life of Northeast people, not only for their use, but for a sustainable use so that the next generations can also use them. Now, talking about the loss of the forestry, here are some numbers. The recent reports titled India State of Forest Report released by the one and only Forest Survey of India shows how grave the ground situation is. Years after years, we are losing canopies and simultaneously those species depending on it. But new researchers can change the approach to preserve biodiversity. We can go the native way to accomplish this task. Now, one interesting fact is native people worship those natural resources which they use in their daily lives, which is utterly different a culture from what we urban society know. This is a very obvious thing because those natural resources are the only basis on which they live. Conserving it is in their own interest. As I told you earlier, the northeastern indigenous people worship different plants as various gods. This approach not only looks after their culture, but and also takes care of the plant species that they are worshipping. Here is a complete list of different plant species named after Hindu gods. Now, some raw applications of nature we can see in the Northeast. As you can see, in the indigenous people use plants as antidotes to snake bites, scorpion bites, and remedy for broken bones, or even the orthopedic treatments. Similarly, sacred groves are an excellent way to let the nature breathe as peacefully as it is. Now, for some more examples, the indigenous people perform some usage of this plant species like Equisetum argemon are dried and powdered to get paste from it and can be applied on infested portion of wounds. And comparably, Northmen discovered natural medications for diseases like muscular pain, cure of fever, headache, and body swelling, etc. All these physical difficulties. And thus, this way, they use, they cut, they plant, and they preserve again and again, and generations after generations. And by now, we have come to the end of my presentation, but surely not to the end of this idea. This idea to let nature breathe the way it wants, the idea that beyond every science and political visions, what remains is the wild, the very wild from where humanity rose. On this World Biodiversity Day, we can pledge that no more artificiality, no more restrictions will be enforced on nature in the native way by the known hands. Biodiversity of northeast of India will be nurtured. Thank you very much for your kind patience.
Thank you, Srijita. That was wonderful, very confidently presented. Now just maybe, welcome Srijita. Maybe a question from any faculty or student. Any question, anyone?
Srijita, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
How can you preserve the wild plant or ethnomedicinal plant by culturing the ethnobotany?
By culturing what?
Ethnobotany.
Sir, as I showed in the slide, people use them. The native people, the indigenous people, they use those plants for many reasons. Yes, and more than us, more than we use those native plants. So by this way, they are not only using them, but also they are planting them
Yes.
for the next generations to use. So this is the way we are preserving also. So this is a research actually. I presented this.
By planting, by proper utilization, also missing.
Yes, that means it's community. It's the community which is involved.
Is the community, indigenous community? Yes,
it's a community effort. Very good.
Yes.
Very good, Srijita. It's a community effort. So thank you very much. Maybe now have the next speaker.
May I ask a question to Srijita? Not a question, just my
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Srijita, it is not a question. I am
Yes,
Professor SB.
Yes, sir.
I'm asking you that out of many topics and areas of botany, you have chosen this idea of this ethnobotanical aspect. Why? Do you have any fascination here? Do you have any engagement, or do you have any things in your mind for future research?
Sir, why I chose this? Isn't it the question? Yeah.
Yes, yes, Srijita. Yes. Why this topic in particular? That is exactly sir's question. Yes.
This, sir, we have one paper on this semester, like ethnobotany. So while I was studying that and while I was researching for this biodiversity presentation, I got this topic and I was very interested. Like I studied this some days ago and I found it in a real application. I could apply this knowledge on this presentation. So, sir, I chose this.
So very interesting. I'm not appropriately qualified to talk about, but I
No,
can
sir.
tell you the two plant species, Artemisia annua and the Cinchona. These are the two the source of the compounds which are very, very effective in malaria treatment today. Artemisinin compound is the drug of artemisinin compound. The name is artesunate, artemisinin. These are the drug of choice of very, very critical malaria like falciparum malaria. So plants are very, very important for the sustainable health and well-being for the human also. So it is not only the sustainability of the ecological homeostasis, but it is also the survival and health and well-being of the human. Thank you very much for your understanding about this.
Thank you, sir.
Next, may we have Shurupa for her presentation. Shurupa Karmakar, please.
Hello, everyone. A very good afternoon to all of my respected professors and my fellow speakers and listeners. I am Shurupa Karmukar, 4th SEM, Department of Botany, Asutosh College. Today we are celebrating the International Day for Biological Diversity. In that case, I am going to present a short presentation upon fund diversity of Darjeeling Hills. At the highest level, biodiversity refers to all the different species on planet Earth. But on a much smaller scale, you could study the biodiversity within a local ecosystem like Darjeeling Hills, Sikkim, Sundarbans, etc. So in that case, I have Ma'am, is the slide visible?
No, Shurupa, your slide is not visible. It's not moving.
Sorry for the inconvenience. May I start, ma'am?
Yes, sure, please.
Here's my first slide. Fund state. The state consisting of the ferns and fern allials are one of the oldest land plant groups on Earth. And they are free-sporing vascular plants that have a life cycle with alternating free-living gametophyte and sporophyte phase that are independent at maturity. In this slide, I have noted those characters about ferns. On to my next slide. Darjeeling Himalaya, great habitat of ferns. As we know, the Darjeeling Hills is a segment of Eastern Himalaya, and biogeographically, the area shares two important zones, some part of Gangetic Plains at the northeast India. Floristically, the Eastern Himalaya is one of the richest regions in the world and is literally considered as botanist paradise. The meteorological parameters like temperature, humidity, sunshine, velocity, rainfall, etc., and its cumulative effect on locality is called as climate. And this climate of Darjeeling Hills is very suitable for ferns and is an ideal home for diverse flora and fauna. In this slide, I have given those information why Darjeeling Hills are very suitable for ferns. In the next slide, I have added two photos of two very usual ferns as example. The first one, Dicanopteris linearis, is common species of fern and it is one of the most widely distributed fern of the Old World tropics and adjacent regions. It grows easily on poorly drained, nutrient-poor soils and in distributed habitat. The second one of the slide is Cyatheas, commonly known as tree ferns. Mostly it grows on tropical and subtropical areas as well as temperate rainforest. On my next slide, I have added two photos of ferns on Darjeeling Himalaya that can be found on easily and severally on that place. Lycopodium japonica, our first one. It is a herbaceous fern with creeping runner. The leaves are spirally arranged, dense, angled upward. It can be found in Labha, Sukhia, Tonglu, 3rd mile of Darjeeling Himalaya. The second one, Huperzia harteriana, is also a herbaceous fern, terrestrial, erect, and the leaves are dense, reflexed, leathery, and sessile. It can be found in Tonglu, Chitre, Jalpahar, and Shinchal on Darjeeling. In the next slide, I have added a photo of Selagilena bisculatus herbarium sheet to describe it. It is a herbaceous fern, lithophytic, and creeping. The leaves are diamorphic, lateral leaves are oblong, dentate, and arcuate. It can be found in Lepong, Megha, and Alubari. The second one, Lygodium plexosum, are terrestrial, and the rhizomes of it are shortly creeping, densely covered with roots. Locally, it can be found on Tista, Shingla, and Majidar. In my next slide, I have added two photos of the ferns which are economically and medicinally important. The first one, Angiopteris helferiana, it's a lithophyte fern, terrestrial, erect, green and glabrous. The lamina is ovate to lanceolate. Locally, it can be found severally in Mangwa, Tadak, and Mungpu of Darjeeling Hills. The second one, Lysopodia sarnua. It's commonly known as staghorn club moss. It can be seen on Singla, Tista sites, and Lava. Darjeeling Hills has three important ethnic communities, Bhutia, Lepcha, Nepalis, and each group following their own traditional way of utilizing nature resources. In this slide, I have noted those utilization of fern and fern alliance. Fern and fern alliance are used as food material, ornamental plant, medicinal plant, severally, and also uses for religious ceremony and to make house utensils out of it. The next slide presents the edible fern of Darjeeling Hills. I have added three of them as example. The first one, Diplesia mesculentum, locally known as Ningro, and the young frond of it is edible, and local people use them as antiseptic also. The second one, Diplesia maximum, locally known as Sawani Ningro, and people use them as antiseptic, and the young frond of it is edible. The third one, Ophioglossum, locally known as Gibreshag. The fronds are edible and severally used by peoples of Darjeeling Hills. In the next slide, I have added some photos of medicinally important fern. The first one, Adiantum venesetum, locally named as Rani Shinkha. The second one, Equisetum arvens, locally known as Sali Bisali. And the third one, Thyleptris procera, locally known as Pireshotta. Now we have come to the conclusion. Ferns are found to be used by local people for different purposes. Young fronds are used as vegetable and prefers their delicacy. In some cases, over-exfoliation of species were observed, which has led to a gradual decline in the population of a species. And in certain extent, some species tend to be rare in the study area. Proper conservation strategy and management is required to safeguard species. Now, if we have to talk about the whole biodiversity of Earth, so I have to say that most biodiversity are consumed by humans. So it is their primary responsibility to preserve and protect biodiversity, to protect the Earth and the richness of the species. Thank you. That's it from me. Thank you, SS ma'am and AD ma'am, for your help. And thank you for listening. That's it. Have a good day.
Thank you, Shilpa. Very nicely presented. It was all your hard work. It was your work all the way. So, any questions for Shilpa? Anyone? Any questions for her?
Shilpa, do you have any idea how you can grow this fern in some other places, or how you can conserve it? What are the methods we should follow to conserve this kind of ferns, especially the medicinal one?
If it medicinally important, then I think it should be preserved in that place where it grows. The weather, the climate will preserve it, like it will grow there, and because it's fern of there, like we can find some ferns in Western Ghat, we can find some fern in Darjeeling Hills. So the temperature, the climate is totally different in different two places. So we have to preserve them in that place.
Obviously, they can't grow here in the plain. So we must take the measures. We must train the people there only to make the fern to grow there, the cultivation there only. That should be taken.
Yes, ma'am.
This kind of thoughts should come out from all of your presentations. What I am feeling lacking, that is, you are not telling any one of you that how you can preserve this, how you can go for the biodiversity preservation, the method, The thoughts should come from that way, that how we can conserve the biodiversity. What are the methods to be followed? How we can do it? Yes, the biodiversity is there. They are important to us, but how we can preserve them? What should be the methods from the next generation, but the human activities, what should be the methods to conserve them? What I feel that it is lacking. Okay, thank you, Shurupa.
Thank you, Shomati. Shurupa, have you heard ma'am's suggestions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am, for the
Thank you. Thank you. So now we can have the next speaker, Damini Dotto.
Good afternoon, one and all present here. Today, my topic for this presentation is biodiversity in coral reefs and their role in climate change. I am Damini Dutta from second semester Botany Department of Asutosh College. Ma'am, is it visible?
Yes, yes, it's visible. Visible, audible. You are audible also. Carry on.
Thank you, ma'am. First, we look into this coral reef damage impact on environment. Coral reefs harbor the highest biodiversity of any ecosystem globally and directly support over 500 million people worldwide, mostly in the poor countries. Next, we move on to what coral reef is. Coral reefs are made up of colonies of hundreds to thousands of tiny individual corals called polyps. Next, we move on to the origin of coral reefs. Coral reefs begin to form when free-swimming coral larvae attach to submerged rocks or other hard surfaces along the edges of islands or continents. As the corals grow and expand, reefs take on one of three major characteristic structures. Type of coral reefs that we can find. First, we have fringing reefs, then barrier reefs, then atoll reefs, and lastly, patch reefs. Moving on to fringing reef, according to the first picture, it grows near the coastline around islands and continents. These type of reefs are the most common type we see. They are separated by shallow lagoons from the shore. They are mostly found in Kenya and Australia. In the second picture, we see barrier reef. These reef types border along coastlines with a very wide and deep lagoon, separating the two structures. The more shallower coral that sticks out of the water and creates a barrier or wall. For example, barrier reef in Australia. In the third picture, as per the picture, as you can see, that it is a ring-like shaped coral reef or small islands of reefs in a circle with a lagoon in the middle and are usually located in the middle of the sea. They are mostly found in Pacific Ocean where the water is warm and salty. Lastly, the patch reef. They are small isolated reefs that grow from the open bottom of the island platform or continental shelf. They usually occur between fringing and barrier reef. Next, we move on to the importance of coral reefs. It protects coastline from damaging effect of wave action and tropical storm. It provides habitats and shelter for many marine organisms. They are the source of nitrogen and other essential nutrients for marine food chains. Even they assist in carbon and nitrogen fixing. They help with new nutrient recycling and provide jobs for local communities, and also it offers opportunities for recreation. Next, we move on to the likely impacts of climate change to coral reef. First, we have coral bleaching. Next, we have slower coral growth. Third, we find physical damage to coral reefs. Then we have coral mortality. Coral bleaching. Corals are extremely sensitive to temperature changes. Increased water temperatures, which may be linked to global warming, can cause mass coral bleaching. Next, we have slower coral growth. Sea level is expected to increase in the range of 6 to 37.5 inches over the next century, according to IPCC 2001. The vertical growth rate of coral is likely to be slower than this increase. As a result, corals will be deeper, receive less sunlight, and grow more slowly. According to the third picture, it is very much visible physical damage to coral reef. Increased coral mortality is expected as storm events and cyclones become more frequent. Coral reef growth may not be able to keep pace with the destructive events. Number 4, we have coral mortality, rising sea temperatures and sea level and increased frequency of storms will increase coral mortality and seriously endanger coral reefs. Now, what are the initiatives that we can take to protect coral reef from climate change? First we can do is that create effective marine protected areas. MPAS, creating MPAS in areas that are less prone to bleaching events because of local cold water currents or upwelling. Next, what we can do is that lessen other pressures on coral reefs. Reefs with fewer stresses will be more likely to recover from coral bleaching and adapt to increased temperatures. Controlling coastal development through an integrated coastal zone management (ICZM) can help protect reefs from long-term stresses. The last one and the most effective one to protect and enhance ecosystem that absorb greenhouse gas. The loss of some ecosystem, especially forests and wetlands, contributes a significant amount of CO2 or carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. Natural carbon sequestration is the process of removing CO2 from the atmosphere by enhancing ecosystems such as forests that absorb greenhouse gases. We can conclude it by coral reefs sit at the interface of two powerful societal trends. On the one hand, coral reef ecosystem provide vast resources to human communities, resources that are increasingly needed as the human population grows. The only sure way to preserve the world's coral reefs will be to take drastic action to reverse global warming. Last but not the least, I would like to express my very great appreciation to Dr. Shupatra Sen ma'am and Dr. Anindita De ma'am for their valuable and constructive suggestion during the planning and implementation of this research presentation. Thank you and have a nice day ahead.
Thank you, Damini.
Thank you, ma'am.
That was a very colorful, in fact, presentation. And if there are any questions for Damini, please. Is there any question for her?
Damini, I have one question.
Yes.
It was a very nice presentation. Thanks for it.
Thank you.
Can you please once tell me the how the environmental changes makes an impact on coral bleaching? You have told, but I want to know once again only the environmental changes, its impact on coral bleaching.
Okay. Corals are extremely sensitive to temperature changes. Increased water temperature, which may be linked to global warming, they can cause mass coral bleaching.
Okay. Then temperature, pH, or any kind of changes that will hamper the coral bleach. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Damini.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Damini. May I now invite the next speaker, Sharunna Bhattacharya.
Hello and good afternoon to everybody present here. I am Sharunna Bhattacharya, currently studying in my 4th semester at Department of Botany of Asutosh College. Today on World Biodiversity Day, I am going to be talking about the Sundarbans, one of the prime biodiversity hotspots in not only West Bengal or India, but all across the world. So I'll just share my slide. So today I'm going to be talking about the Sundarbans, a place that has so much to offer to every person who's interested in plants, animals, microorganisms. So before we move on with the topic, I want to talk a little bit about why I chose the topic. First of all, the location of the Sundarbans played an extremely important role. The Sundarbans is located extremely close to us. So its decline or recline directly affects our lives, the lives of people living in West Bengal and around. Secondly, it is home to multiple flora and fauna that's endangered. Their numbers are declining and hence it needs conservation. Thirdly, it is home to a lot of endemic species of flora and fauna that are exclusive to the Sundarbans, and hence it can be a very interesting topic to study and look at. But before I move on to, before I delve into details into the flora and fauna of the Sundarbans, let us talk a little bit about the location of the Sundarbans. The Sundarbans is located at the deltaic region formed by the Ganga, Brahmaputra, and Meghna rivers. Now, because these rivers flow through very fertile regions of North India and Bangladesh, they carry a lot of alluvial soil with them, which is why it serves as a perfect platform for a lot of plants to flourish. Secondly, the Sundarbans has a lot of tidal water flowing in, so it has saline water. Hence, we can see a lot of halophytic plants and animals that are accustomed to live in these wetlands of the Sundarbans. Now, the flora of the Sundarbans is predominantly mangroves. Any conversation about the Sundarbans is incomplete without the mangroves. But it is not just mangroves. We can find a lot of ferns, grasses, sedges, etc. also in the Sundarbans. Here we see Avicennia officinalis, also known as the Indian mangrove, which is found in abundance in the Indian part of the Sundarbans. But before we move on, it is important to mention here that both the Indian part of the Sundarbans and the Bangladesh part of the Sundarbans have similar kind of species, but their numbers differ. For example, some species can be abundant in the Indian part of the Sundarbans, but very rare in the Bangladesh part, and vice versa. For example, the very eminent Sundari trees are found in abundance in the Bangladesh part of the Sundarbans, but when we come to India, their numbers are threatened and are considered endangered. Here we also see Xylocarpus granatum, a very distinct mangrove which is characterized by its cannonball-like fruits, as you can see in the picture. Now, moving on to some of the distinct plants that you can see in the Sundarbans, beginning with the Naipa fructicans, also locally known as golpata. They are unique because they are the only known palm to be accustomed to grow in the swamps or the mangroves. They are also economically important and important to the locals because they are used to build roofs of houses. We also see very well-known plants like Goran, Seriops decandra, Gorgon, Rhizophora, Exicaria, which is known as Giva locally. A lot of the mangroves in the Sundarbans are decreasing in their numbers every day. Plants like Aglaya, Cyanometra, Dalbergia are all very unique mangroves, but are considered threatened by the red list published by the IUCN. The Sundari trees, the very Sundari trees that gives Sundarbans its name, is also considered threatened in the Indian part of the Sundarbans. More species like Bruguiera, Sonoretia, Xylocarpus are also considered threatened, and measures are being taken every day to conserve their numbers. Moving on to faunal diversity, any conversation about the Sundarbans is incomplete without the mention of the huge faunal diversity that it has to offer, from crustaceans to the Royal Bengal tiger, which is famous all across the globe. The Bengal tiger is an endangered species today. Its number was extremely less, but since the last few years, with the help of the national parks and the biosphere reserves, their numbers are increasing. The Sundarban also offers a lot of other species that can only be seen around that region. To be mentioned are the Gangetic dolphin or Platanista gangetica, chital, Cervus axis, the saltwater crocodile, and of course the very famous green turtle. Now, the diversity of the Sundarbans is not just limited to the plants and animals, but also a very rich fish diversity. The fish diversity is very much affected by the salinity gradients. For example, we see here that in slightly less saline regions, we find fishes like pangash and bhetki, latest calcarifer. But if we move to a bit more saline regions, we find hilsa, mostly in the Bangladesh region. And if we move to more saline regions, we find fishes like harpodon or Bombay duck, the famous Bombay duck, pampas or pomfret. Now, it's quite clear from what I've said until now that the Sundarbans is under a lot of threat. Now, what exactly is threatening these very beautiful species of the Sundarbans? The Sundari trees, including a lot of other trees, were initially logged in the 20th century because of their valuable timber. But after that, they have been legally protected and their logging has been stopped. Currently, they are under threat because of the rising sea level, which is caused by global warming. The Bengal tiger was, of course, poached until it was restricted. But now, due to habitat destruction and fragmentation, it is again under threat. Along with that, the locals living in Sundarbans share the same food with the Royal Bengal tiger, which is why it also faces danger. Other than that, the green turtle is also a victim to poaching and bycatch. The saltwater crocodile was, of course, hunted for its skin and now is under threat because of habitat loss. Now, what are the reasons that overall affect the biodiversity loss in the Sundarbans? First of all, the overexploitation by the locals. Now, the locals living in Sundarbans depend on it largely because of their livelihood, from honey to fishing to wood gathering. They depend on the Sundarbans for a lot of things. But this use over the years has translated into exploitation, which in turn has also translated into overexploitation, which is why we see a lot of the habitat being disrupted, a lot of deforestation, and a lot of killing of animals. Secondly, as you must have noticed in the recent years, the number of cyclones that have been rising from the Bay of Bengal, that area, is increasing. Cyclones are becoming more frequent, which is resulting in a lot of destruction. However, this destruction should not have been happening because the mangroves, they act as a natural shield against cyclones. But because of mangrove deforestation, the soil doesn't have that kind of grip to be saved from the destruction of the cyclones, which is why the Sundarbans are a massive target, are a massive victim of the cyclones like Amphan and Yas. Now, again, a very important reason that needs to be mentioned is a hydrological reason. It is freshwater influx. Now, freshwater influx decreases the salinity of the water of the Sundarbans, and this in turn affects how much sediment is deposited in the Sundarbans, which causes the rivers to shift to a different direction, displacing a lot of the flora and affecting the vegetation. Again, the last reason of a lot of reasons are there, but the last reason that I'm going to mention is anthropogenic. The forests of Sundarbans are cleaned and burnt to make way for agriculture, which also leads to habitat loss. Now, the question is how to save the Sundarbans. Yes, the Sundarbans have been at the limelight of biodiversity conservation. It is being conserved by the government. About 15% of the land is protected. Shojnekhali Wildlife Sanctuary, Sundarban National Park in West Bengal, a number of national parks and wildlife sanctuaries in Bangladesh. restrict overexploitation of the Sundarbans. But what else? The locals are being made aware of the role that they need to play in replanting mangroves so that the cyclones are not being able to affect Sundarbans the way they are doing now. The government, another way of conservation that I would like to suggest is for the government to arrange alternate ways for the locals of the Sundarbans to earn their livelihood. If they have some other way to earn their livelihood instead of logging woods or collecting honey, I'm sure it will also help save the Sundarbans. Other than that, of course, ex-situ conservation methods like the use of germplasms should be taken into effect to preserve the diminishing mangrove population. Now, in essence, what we can take away from this is that the Sundarbans are a gem in terms of the diverse biological diversity that it has to offer. The endemic species, if they are lost, they cannot be brought back, and hence it is our time now to act, or else it will be too late. On that note, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sharuna. Very meaningful lecture, very meaningful. And I'm glad that you gave a suggestion yourself about alternative livelihood. That was a very, very good suggestion from your end. Now, any questions?
Sharunda, sir, AG sir, you first say. Sir, AG sir.
Sharuna, I am very much appreciating you that you have left no path to disturb you by question. It's a very, very nice presentation. I admire you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sharonna, I must admit that your vocal tone and the pace you have moved on, everything is quite noticeable and really nice, your presentation. And I just want to add on one thing, that you missed one important plant, that is hital. Hital plant.
Sorry, ma'am?
You have missed one plant, important plant, hital. That is the tigers, it causes some kind of camouflaging. That is the tigers hide behind the leaves of those plants. It is Phoenix paludosa. It's quite an important plant in Sundarban. Okay. Thank you, Sharonna. Very nice.
I will take note of that. Thank you, ma'am.
Really, Sharonna, it's a nice presentation. I also appreciate your presentation, and you have completed and you have told totally. Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Sharuna, so all your teachers are praising you. You must be a very happy person today. Yes. And may I now ask Deepshika Shorkar to present her work.
Good afternoon, everybody present here. I, Deepshika Shorkar of Asutosh College, Department of Botany, 2nd Sem, presents to you the orchid diversity, naturally vibrant and ecologically vital on international biodiversity. Family Orchidaceae portrays an extreme wide array of vibrant, attractive flowers. Over more than 22,000 species in nearly 1,000 genera of non-woody perennial terrestrial plants make up the family. It has got its name from the Greek term testicles because of its root tuber shape. The taxonomic systematic is mentioned below in the slide. Orchids have a wide ecological distribution. Bearing attractive flowers, orchids grow in most of the non-polar world, especially in tropical regions, in soil or on other plants except for the Antarctic. Its diversity is phenomenal, leading to proclaim some orchids to be considered as weeds, such as Planthera ciliaris and Swixin stratomatica, shown in the image given alongside. Most orchids photosynthesize, but some live on dead organic material or absorb food from a fungus living in their roots. Some examples of epiphytic orchid diversity is Oncidium cactus, Pleurothallus epiphytic on lichens, Brassicola epiphytic on mangrove roots, and Habernia is almost an aquatic orchid. Morphological characteristic feature is mass of pollen called pollinia. Hybrids with showy flowers for the commercial trade come from the genera Cattleya, Cymbidium, Vanda, and Leila. Flowers vary widely in size, color, and shape, but are all bilaterally symmetrical and have 3 petals, sepals, labellum, and column. Labels on the photograph depicted on left are number A, inflorescence stalk or peduncle showing sympodial arrangement and spike racemose, part B, H, I, gymnosium and its detailed parts, part C, ellis of sepal and petal, part D, individual parts of the plant, part F, anther, G, pollen grains. Image on the right depicts A, flower side on, B, flower side front on, C, flower back, D, flower top down, E, whole plant, F, labellum, G, column front on, H, column, and labellum side on. One of the key drivers behind this floral diversity is that some orchids are specially and exclusively pollinated by a single pollinator species. The flowers of these picky orchids have very specific shapes. By being so specific, only one species of insect can access the pollen. Orchids use a wide variety of complex, highly specialized methods to lure insects and achieve pollination. Methods used are such as nectaries, which act as major attractant, pseudopollen, a powdery mass resembling pollen that is found on the labellum of flowers lacking nectar, co-pollinator such as butterfly and birds. Orchids sometimes use traps to achieve pollination. Deception methods such as pseudo-antagonism, pseudo-copulation, and pseudo-nectaries assist pollination along with flies and birds. Methods such as mechanical self-pollination, wasp assistance, and mutualism or symbiosis is involved, which means two organisms living together in mutual benefit. Vanilla to your ice cream and cakes is extracted from the seed pod of an orchid. Many orchids are used to prepare folk medicines for curing fish poisoning. Local beverages such as salam and are used to flavor rums. And foods like Gastrodia tubers is prepared from the different parts of orchids. This slide shows us the picture of vanilla, Gastrodia tubers, and salam. Different parts of orchids are either dried or boiled to use in various aspects, such as to prevent sickness after childbirth, strong diuretics, seasoning for foods, and use a glue substitute. The only orchid known to flower exclusively at night is Bulbophyllum nocturnum, and a critically endangered species is found in Andaman Islands of South India is Zwitzin rolfian, are shown in the image provided. Recently, the protection of plants wasn't being given the same priority as other wildlife. However, in October 2018, the UK government hosted the Illegal Wildlife Trade Conference in London. Recently, trade aims are taken to conserve the orchids. Happy International Biological Day, and thank you.
Thank you, Deepshika. Anyone, any questions that you would want to ask Deepshika? Is there any question for her? AG sir, PB sir, me too.
Deepshikha, the number of the orchid plants, they are primarily dependent on the insect for their pollination, basically, or their floral structure, So
Yes,
if you focus on this structure, on this trait, how the insects are helping pollinating the way for the conservation of the plant, then it will be more better for your slides. So no doubt it is very good presentation for you.
Thank you, sir.
Can we move on to the next speaker?
Okay.
Okay. So,
from Botany Department of Asutosh College, and today we are celebrating, and I'm very glad to be a part of this beautiful seminar. Now I'm going to present a PPT which is based on the topic diversity in plants acting in phytoremediation. So let me share the screen. Is it visible, ma'am?
Yes, visible.
It's visible, Shilu.
Thank you. Now, what is phytoremediation? Phytoremediation is the process which uses plants for the purpose of degradation, extraction, or elimination of pollute substances from soil and water. Here, phyto means plant and remedia means restoring balance. The term phytoremediation was coined by Ila Ruskin in 1994. Here in this video, we can see how soil and water become polluted by this contaminant, but the root of the trees absorb the contaminant from soil and water. This is how phytoremediation process works. Here is the mechanisms of phytoremediation. They are, the first one is phytoextraction. Phytoextraction is the removal of inorganic pollutants from the soil through plant uptake and removal of biomass. Next is phytostimulation. It is the breakdown of organic contaminants in the soil by microbial activity in the plant root. Then rhizofiltration. Rhizofiltration refers to the use of plant roots to absorb, concentrate, and precipitate toxic metals from groundwater. Now, what is phytostabilization? It involves the reduction of the mobility of heavy metals in the soil. Next one is phytodegradation. Phytodegradation involves the degradation of organic contaminants directly through the release of enzymes from roots or through the metabolic activities within plant tissues. And the final one is phytovolatilization. This process involves the uptake of contaminants by plant root and convert it to a gaseous state and release into the atmosphere. Now, here are some examples of plants used in phytoremediation. The first one is sunflower. Sunflower is a hyperaccumulator plant and it can eliminate metals like lead, copper, zinc, etc. and radioactive substances like cesium and strontium. Sunflowers are used as remediation of soil for the first time in Russia. Next one is fern, which can detoxify soil by absorb arsenic from the soil. The next one is willow trees that can absorb cadmium, zinc, and copper from surrounding soil. Next is hydrangeas, which are responsible for absorbing aluminium out of the soil. The next one is water hyssop, which removes lead, mercury,
chromium from wetlands. Here are some plants variety in phytoremediation. Parrot feather and reed can remove organic contaminants. On the other hand, cattail, salicornia, and spartina can remove inorganic contaminants. There are some pictures and names of plants that is also used in phytoremediation process, such as Ceratophyllum, Hydrilla, Lemma, Salvinia, etc. Here is examples of plants and their target contaminant. It is the picture of mustard plant and its target contaminants are zinc and uranium. Next one is carrot and its target pollutant DDT. Another one is Iberis intermedia and its target polluted is thallium. The next one is Iconia crassipes, contaminant mercury. Next one is Thalspi crulorescens and its target contaminant cadmium and zinc. And the final one is transgenic tobacco, which absorbs nitro-aromatic explosive. In this slide, there are some examples of transgenic plants used in phytoremediation. The first one is Nicotiana tabacum, which is highly tolerable to cadmium, and the next one is Arabidopsis thaliana. It has a higher tolerance to mercury. Now, conclusion. The environment and human health can be affected if wastewater from different sources is not treated, resulting imbalances in functioning of ecosystems, giving rise to several health issues and ecological degradation. Through phytoremediation technology, both organic and inorganic contaminants can be treated to successful range. Phytoremediation is an alternative tool towards clean and green environment. I would like to express my special thanks to our respected Professors Shubhatra ma'am and Anindita ma'am for their valuable time and helpful guidance in completing this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Shurabhi. That was a very informative presentation. Very informative. So, is there any question for Shurabhi?
There is a question to you that how you can correlate this activity of phytoremediation with the biodiversity conservation. How these two processes can be correlated?
By phytoremediation process, we can clean our soil and our environment, and that is how biodiversity can grow.
Yes. The plants can be protected, the environment can be protected through this kind of activities. Okay. Do you have any idea other kind of plants who take part in phytoremediation other than the angiospermic plant? Whatever you have discussed here, all are angiospermic one. Do you have any idea? Any other kinds of organisms who are remediation or phytoremediation, anyone you can tell? The removal of pollutant, do you have any idea? Just I am asking this question.
Bacteria.
Yes. There are various microorganisms, not only bacteria, mostly the fungi and also the algae. They are the main components of this earth who can take part of various kinds of pollutants from the aquatic bodies and also from the soil. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Out of your syllabus, you have studied all these things and presented very nicely.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shomadi. Hi, AG sir, please. Yes,
Shurabhi,
AG sir.
Can you name the pond that can use as phytoremediate?
Yes, sir. Sir, 1 second.
ওই ফান্ডটার নামটা তুই পড়িসনি, ওখানে লেখা হয়নি। ফান্ডটার
হ্যাঁ,
নামটা
স্যার।
যদি, হ্যাঁ ওটা কি ফান্ডটার নামটা বলতে পারবে?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, একটুখানি।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, পি দিয়ে শুরু, পি দিয়ে শুরু।
উচ্চারণটা আলাদা।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ।
টেরিস, টেরিস, টেরিস পিটাটা
হ্যাঁ, টেরিস পিটাটা, yes sir. হ্যাঁ।
ওটা একটু অ্যাড করে। থ্যাংক ইউ ফর ইউর নাইস।
Surabhi, thank you. You have imposed one video also in the presentation. That is also nice. Thank you, Surabhi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shurubhi. The next speaker is Rupam.
Yes, ma'am.
Rupam,
Am I audible, ma'am?
please come and
Hello, ma'am.
present your paper.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Rupam, aro louder.
Hello, ma'am.
Too loud bolte hobe. And yes, and we have to see your slides also.
Okay.
Yes.
Good afternoon to respected teachers and fellow listeners. I hope you all are doing well today. I am Rupam Laha from Asutosh College Botany Department 6th semester. In this International Day of our Biological Diversity, I am going to deliver a PowerPoint presentation about diversity in plants acting as pollution indicators. In these days, pollution is a big concern that is injuring our planet Earth. Pollution remains a driving force to ecosystem alteration. Pollutants are released, they are interacting in turn with other components of Earth system, such as plant species. Plants offer an excellent alarm system for detecting the presence of excessive concentration of pollutant. Plants, as we know, are linchpin for all animal kingdom. They are of different use along with the basic needs of humanity. Also, plants can effectively be used as cheap and naturally available monitoring systems or bioassays of the level and the type of the air, soil, and water pollution in an area. But there are some characteristics features that should be present in pollution indicating plants. Firstly, species should be easy to identify that in the field and easy to handle for damage analysis. Secondly, species should have a wide range of distribution so that it can be used in species should have a wide range of distribution so that it can be used in different areas. Thirdly, species should be sensitive to many types of pollutants so that it can be used to monitor different types of pollutants in an area. Lastly, they should produce highly specific damage symptoms in response to particular type of concentration of pollutants. Following 3 slides will be showing some example of plants as indicator of different environmental pollution. Here we can see how the plants are affected due to different pollutants like sulfur dioxide in air, ozone in air, and chromium in water, etc. For an example, Pruna serotina plant is affected by ozone gas in air and its leaves get red to purple stipples and drops early. Similarly, Eichhornia are sensitive to sewage and heavy metal in water. The increase in number to a great extent due to this adulteration in water. Again, in this slide, we can see 4 more plants acting as pollution indicators. For an example, begonia species are affected by acid mist pollution in air. its upper surface of leaves get necrotic spots. Now, we are going to know about different lichens as pollution indicators. In this slide, lichens are fascinating. They are consist of fungus and algae partnership. The fungus benefits from arrangement because the algae produce food by photosynthesis. The algae benefits by being protected and anchored by the fungus. Many lichens are sensitive to atmospheric pollution. Different species are sensitive to different pollutants, like Hypogymnia xanthoria can detect highly polluted areas. Similarly, Evernia can detect moderately polluted areas. Let's shift to some microscopic prokaryotes and eukaryotes. From general science, as we know that microscopic organisms are highly sensitive to different pollutants. Algae are such photosynthetic microorganisms that contains both prokaryotes and eukaryotes and detect wide range of pollutants like cladophora and Stygioclonium monitors heavy pollution of water. Again, Dunella teratolecta, Cyclotella cryptic, and Pavlova lutheri are good examples of oil pollution indicators. Microscopic analysis of water samples collected from lakes, streams, and other bodies determines the diversity of algal species and provides potentially useful early warnings of signs of deterioration conditions. Talking about prokaryotic and eukaryotic pollutant indicating organisms, fungi and bacteria comes first on the list. The kingdom fungi includes some of the most important organisms that are ecologically valuable for detecting unwanted contaminations. The fungi very easily reflect changes in the environment. The fruit bodies of large fungi and also the hyphae and mycorrhiza function to circulate radionucleotides both upwards and to other direction in the soil and vegetation. For example, Scoliobasidium, Humicola, Verticillium can monitor oil pollution. Similarly, bacteria, the single-cell organisms that are found almost everywhere on the earth, are vital to the planet's ecosystem. It has been recorded that Thiobacillus species is a good indicator of mercury. This bacteria can also change mercury into more dangerous methyl mercury and dimethyl mercury. Now, let's see how non-vascular biophytes contribute to this pollution indicating system of nature. These are veterans just like microscopic bacterials and fungus in pollution detection. Ceratodon purposes and Funaria stands with good example for metal pollutant detecting species. Bryophytes work in real different way, like in general with their changing phase of life. With different life forms, the strength of pollution detection also changes, as I said, with increasing thallus complexity. The resistance level also increases. Environmental Specimen Bank has proved a good tool for recording inorganic and pollution trends over the years. As the slide suggests, biophytes act as environmental specimen bank. That means they rigorously absorb different elements from the habitat they are growing in and detect pollutants and even unnoticed environmental chemicals of biological interest. Plant indicators are always a good option over chemical or artificial indicating method, as they do not contain any chemicals that can pose a side effect. Additionally, they don't require any mechanical equipments. and so many things, different varieties of plant, track down different range of contamination, thus as we can give a check to the pollution. Similarly, using these plants will save the species as well. Plant indicators are a sustainable way to predict how the ecosystem are responding external disturbances. Gradually, we have come in the end of my presentation, and I want to give a clarion call for the protection of Mother Earth as a pollution fighter. As pollution poses the greatest threat at the spatio-temporal continuum, countries around the world are racing to ace the race of zero carbon emission. In this race, plant indicators prove to be sustainable choice. Their way of work is natural. They do not involve any artificial support to indicate the state of the environment. Preserving this diversity of pollution indicating plants is greatly important to achieve less polluted environment and make the earth better to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupo. Interesting topic. Now, are there any questions for Rupo?
Rupam,
yes, sir.
Do you have any idea about biophyte conservation? That you indicated that biophytes are also an indicator. Do you have any idea about biophytic conservation?
Sir, আমাকে একটু আমি এখন রেডি নই স্যার, মানে জানি না
ঠিক আছে থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি নাইস প্রেজেন্টেশন
সরি স্যার আমি বলতে পারবো
Okay, Rupam, very nice presentation. You have presented starting from all, and that is from microorganisms to higher plants. All can be used. It's a good collection of your topic.
Thank you, ma'am.
Nicely presented, and the conclusion is also very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Rupam. Our next speaker is Moshumi. Moshumi?
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, you're absolutely audible. Yes, Moshumi.
Okay, ma'am. Good afternoon to my respected teachers, professors, and my fellow listeners. Today is 22nd May. We are gathered here to celebrate National Biodiversity Day. Through this program, I am going to show my presentation about aquatic plants diversity, conservation, and its restoration. So, ma'am, I am going to show my presentation.
Yes, please make your presentation.
Ma'am, is it visible?
Yes, your slide is visible. Yes.
Okay, ma'am. My name is Moshumi from second semester Department of Botany, Asutosh College. So, first, we need to know what are aquatic plants and where they live. Plants that grow in sufficient amount of water or live in a completely aquatic environment are called aquatic plants. This category includes plants that live in lakes, rivers, and other aquatic environments and wetland. This is about of aquatic plants. In my next slide, here we discuss about morphology of small species. Aquatic plants have developed characteristic morphological structure which allow them to exploit their environment in an optimal way. A reduced number or no stomata on the lower sides of the leaves, sometimes stomata only on upper leaf side, thin cuticles or no cuticles. Reduction of lignified elements, changed roots, special form of vegetative propagation. Oxygen has to be transported to the submerged plant part. So you can see the morphological character of aquatic plants in point by point. In my next slide, here we discuss about anatomical features of hydrophytes. Plant anatomy is the key to understanding the evolution of plant adaptation, aquatic and wetland plant. Anatomy reflects hydrological and thermal constraints. The anatomy of these plants split into four basic zones: the root, stem, leaves, and flowers. The root of most aquatic plants are combination of a number of central roots, with many smaller roots trailing off. Terrestrial plants' roots have fine hairs for trapping moisture, but these are not present in aquatic plants. A stem is present in most aquatic plants and performs two basic functions: support and transport. Since the surrounding water provides such plants support, aquatic stems are often much thinner, more flexible than terrestrial stems. Flexible stems allow plant to move with the water rather than try to hold steady against it, risking damage. The leaves of the plant are essentially tools for collecting sunlight to use in the process of photosynthesis. Aquatic plants that produce aerial leaves often show different leaf shapes below and above water. These two different environments and a changed cuticle layer. And next is flower. Some aquatic plants produce flower beneath the water surface. In my next slide, here we discuss about aquatic plants group. This class of plants can be divided into four groups: immersed, submerged, floating, and algae. In this slide, we are discussing about immersed and submerged plants with some examples. Immersed plants are rooted often along the shoreline that stand above the surface of water. The stems of immersed plants are somewhat stiff or firm. Example: Picklelrus, Pontetaria, Cortata, Nymphea, and Marsillia. Submerged plants. These aquatic plants are rooted plants with flagellates or limb stems, and most of their vegetative mass is below water surface. Example like willow moss, Hydrilla leodia. You can see some of these plants. In my next slide, here we discuss about floating plants and algae. So, floating plants, the roots of such floating plants are buried in mud underwater, and the leaves are floating on the water. Example like water lily azolla. Algae, unicellular and multicellular organisms that occur in fresh or moist ground, and that chlorophyll and other pigments but lack stems, roots, and leaves. Example like Ligni muxcras, you can see some examples of in pictures. So in my next slide, here we discuss about impacts of aquatic plants in our ecosystem. Aquatic plants are ecologically important due to their fundamental role in aquatic system, contributing to the complexity of these habitats. natural population of freshwater and marine plants in their native habitats provide substantial ecosystem functions and services, such as nutrient cycling, food reduction, habitat for fish and shellfish, protection of juvenile fish from predators, food for waterfowl, fish and mammals absorb wave energy, produce oxygen, and improve water clarity by stabilizing bottom sediments. They are also used and chemical precursor. And in next, here we discuss about food source as used in food source of aquatic plants. Aquatic plants, both marine and freshwater, are used globally for food and fibers. A large number of aquatic or semi-aquatic plants have potential for commercialization as food plants due to their nutritional value. So, in human nutrition, there are many aquatic plants used by humans as a food source. While like wild rice is water caltrop trepananthus, Chinese water chestnut Eleocharis dulcis, Indian lotus Nelumbo nucifera, water spinach Ipomia aquatica. In animal nutrition, some examples of animal nutrition are water hyacinth Ichoronia and tuckweed lemna and Spritolia and Wolfia. In my next slide, here we discuss about how can we conserve aquatic plants. So, there is a little conservation action undertaking that is specifically targeted as wetland plants. It is very likely that such detailed survey will recognize new freshwater taxa to sign as well as new regional records, many of which will be shown to be rare or conservation. Documentation would also almost certainly show that some taxa currently considered data deficient and sufficiently abundant not to need active conservation. However, it is equally likely that some taxa would be shown to be threatened and need of conservation action. In a likelihood, data exists today than that available for this as estimates, but this information is either unpublished, available only in grey literature, or published to provide context for different taxa. For example, much of the information published on aquatic plants is in description of habitats for birds or fishes. So, in my next slide, here we discuss about ecosystem restoration. Algae reduces water clarity, inhibiting plant growth and dissolve oxygen level. Fish die and aerobic sound can recover damaged water system. It reduces algae for healthy water ecosystem. The result increased water clarity, plant growth, leading to increased dissolved oxygen, bacteria and fish. In this slide, here we wrote conclusion. Aquatic plants are actual significant customs of plant life and are essential component of the aquatic biome. A variety of products and considerable beneficial services are offered by this group of organisms. They play a vital role in the life of human beings as food, fodder, and medicine, etc. In spite of that, the knowledge about correct utilization of aquatic plants is lacking among common people, and in order to make them aware, steps are to be introduced. This paper consists about the economic and significant benefits of aquatic plants for the welfare of human nutrition. I would like to acknowledge my teachers, Miss Shupatra Sen and Miss Anindita ma'am for 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 this golden opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mushmi. That was very interesting. Very interesting presentation. Is there anyone who wishes to ask Mushmi any question?
In your last slide, conclusion slide, you have already said that some plants are problematic if it grows luxuriously. So can you name one plant which is invasive alien? It's quite common. You can name. You've already given example also, which is quite say.
Ma'am, can you tell it again, ma'am?
You have talked aspect of the aquatic plants. Name one negative aspect of the aquatic plants. Give an example of a plant which is quite invasive and causing problem to the aquatic system. তোমার বাড়ির আশেপাশেই আছে, তোমার বাড়ির কাছেও আছে একটা, মনে করো গ্রোয়িং অ্যাবান্ডেন্টলি ইন পন্ডস, মনে করো তুমি ছবিও দিয়েছো, তোমার বাড়ির কাছেই আছে।
সায়েন্টিফিক নাম মনে না থাকলে আমি কমই বলে।
ম্যাম অ্যালগে,
কচুরি পানা।
ইয়েস ম্যাম।
আর অ্যালগাল ব্লুম তো হয়, it has the implication প্রচুর algal blooms worldwide. Okay, thank you. Nice presentation.
Thank you, Shumi. Yes, you're right. You said algae, just to algal bloom, right? So now we have our last speaker for the day, Shaptaparna Guho.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, please.
Good afternoon. Shaptaparna Guho from 4th Sem, Botany Department. Today on the World Biodiversity Day, I would like to put forward a presentation on the topic floral diversities in Indian hotspots. So yeah, let me share my screen. Is the screen visible?
Yes, absolutely visible. Yes, please carry on.
So what we are going to talk about is something called biodiversity. Now, it's obvious that the Earth is in trouble right now due to various human activities, and we can't save the entire planet all at once. We need to have a focus. We also can't do a triage on an entire planet as we have limited resources and limited time to protect many of these places. So in 1988, Norman Myers first came up with the concept of biodiversity hotspot. Scientists who look at this problem decided eventually that there are two main criteria that were going to lead to what the Conservation International now recognizes as biodiversity hotspot. First criteria is that there has to be at least 1,500 endemic species of plants. Also, there had to be 70% of the original habitat already being lost, which also highlighted the need to designate this place as hotspot. These are the names of the 36 biodiversity hotspots of the world. Originally, Norman Myers gave the 25 biodiversity hotspots coded from 1 to 25 and is the green colored portions on the map. Later, 11 hotspots were added, coded from 26 to 36, and is the blue-colored portions on the map. Now, India is the 12th megabiodiverse countries of the world due to its large number of endemic species. Also, a large number of species are known to have originated in India. It hosts about 11% of the global flora and 6.5% of fauna. The biodiversity hotspots are Himalayas, Burma, Sundaland, and the Western Ghats in Sri Lanka. The Himalayas. Talking about the Himalayas, it is home to some of the world's largest peaks ranging from 500 to more than 8,000 meters, giving rise to a variety of ecosystems due to its altitudinal variations. Also, it has an extent of more than 7 million kilometers square, and the vegetation remaining in this hotspot is more than 1 lakh kilometers square. The regions covered by the Himalayan hotspot include Pakistan, Tibet, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, and parts of India like Sikkim, Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Darjeeling, West Bengal, Kashmir, etc. This map shows the areas covered by the Himalayan hotspot, and the table over here shows the different taxonomic groups, their number of species, and the endemic species among it. Tetracentraceae, Melidaceae, Sarcasteraceae, Butomaceae, and Stachyuraceae are the 5 endemic families found in the Himalayas. There are also 10,000 plant species, among which 3,116 plant species are endemic. The large family found in this hotspot is the Orchidaceae family, having 750 species. Now, here are some of the pictures which are endemic to Himalayas. These are the species of rhododendron, primula, and pedicularis Himalayas. And this is the picture of Armenia himalayensis found in the western Himalayas. The next hotspot of India is the Indo-Burma hotspot with an extension of more than 2 million. It is characterized by distinct seasonal weather patterns. The regions covered by it are Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, South China, Laos, Bangladesh, parts of India including Andaman Island, Gangetic Plains, and south of Brahmaputra River. The map over here shows the areas covered by the Indo-Burma hotspot, and the table over here shows the different taxonomic group, their species, and the endemic species among it found in the Indo-Burma hotspot. The Indo-Burma hotspot has a variety of ecosystems, including mixed red evergreen forest, deciduous forest, and montane forest. And the localized vegetations found in this area are low mangroves and seasonal inundated grasslands. Here are the pictures of some of the plants like Amentotaxus assamicus, Coptis tita, Gymnocladus assamica, Nepenthes khasiana, Teca integrifolia, and Sapria himalayensis that are found in Assam, Meghalaya, and Arunachal Pradesh. This is the picture of Platycedium alsicon that is endemic to Manipur, and the 2 orchid species in the bottom are the Papilopedilum insigne and the Ornithochilus cacarensis that are endemic to Assam and Meghalaya. These are the pictures of Cycas rumphii, Phalaenopsis speciosa, and some of the other species found in Andaman Islands. Another biodiversity hotspot of India is the Sundaland hotspot, located in areas of southern Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, Indonesia, and Nicobar Islands of India. It has an extent of more than 1 million kilometers square and has the 2 Borneo and Sumatra. Here is the map showing the areas covered by the Sundaland hotspots. Now, Sundaland hotspot has its border with 3 other hotspots, namely the Indo-Burma hotspot, the Malaysia hotspot, and the Philippines hotspot. Speaking of the floras of the Sundalands, it has mangrove forest, sandy beach forest, and inland large peat swamp forests, where the subalpine forest is dominated by the rhododendron species. In higher elevations, there are thick mountain forests, and the Nicobar Islands have coastal mangrove forest and evergreen deciduous tropical broadleaf forest. There are also several small islands, island grassland. Here is the picture of Scythia albosectaceae that is endemic to Nicobar Island, and this picture at the bottom are plants like Cycas rumphii, species of vanilla, and Orophae castralica that are confined to Nicobar Island. Moving on to the next hotspot of India, that is the final one, is the Western Ghats in Sri Lanka, which has an original extent of more than 1 million kilometers square and covers areas of Sri Lanka and Western Ghats of India. Here the map shows the Western Ghats and Sri Lanka hotspot, the different taxonomic groups, their species and the endemic species among it found in the Western Ghats. The floras of Western Ghats has 5,000 vascular plant species, among which 2,200 species are endemic. Some of the remarkable species of Nilgirianthus and impatiens are also found here. To the right-hand side is the picture of Podocarpus volicianus, which is the only gymnosperms found in the Western Ghats. The Agastyamalai hills of Western Ghats has the highest level of plant diversity and endemism at species level. The dry evergreen forest present there is dominated by the Dipterocarpus species. Also, there is tropical montane cloud forest that still persists there. Coming to this last slide is the conclusion where we learned the different endemic species of India and also India representing 11% of the world flora in just 2.4% of the global landmass. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Shaptaparna. Any question for
Shaptaparna?
Is there any question?
Shaptaparna, according to your opinion, what is the most serious threat to the Himalayan hotspot?
The serious threats include mainly the introduction of introduced species over there, and there are also several other factors related to it, like obviously the habitat loss, habitat which leads to the habitat fragmentation. There are many other reasons.
Very good.
Threats that the
very nice presentation.
Hotspots faces.
Very nice presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Shaptaparna, and with this, we have listened to 10 of our students who have suddenly grown up overnight and they are presenting their papers. So we have heard 10 different views. There has been a lot of diversity. In fact, it is, I think, an apt celebration of the International Biological Diversity Day. Thank you, everyone. And now, for the final vote of thanks, here is Dr. Pradut Bishesh from our department. Pradut, over to you.
Okay, thank you all again. And now it is great privilege for me to share the vote of thanks. Now, my sincere thanks to our beloved principal, Professor Apurva Rai, and Bursar Dr. Manos Kovi for their administrative and technical support to organize these kinds of events. I must thanks to Dr. Suparna Datta Rai, the coordinator of the IQAC, for her inspiring speech and for organization to these kinds of program. And I also gratitude all the esteemed participated students, speaker, who are coming from the semester, second semester, fourth semester, and sixth semesters, and they share a valuable information to us and their thought, and they have expressed a number of the information also about the biodiversity. So it is very nice presentation from their end. So it is beautiful. So I thanks to all of them. I must thanks to our senior professor, Dr. Shojul Bhattacharya from the Department of the Zoology, and Dr. Shuma Haldar for their inspirational thought, valuable talk, and share information on about the biodiversity. I must gratitude thanks to head of the Department of Botany, Dr. Supatra Sen, for arranging and encouraging the grand success of this program. And convener of this program, that is Dr. Aninda De, to organize these kinds of Colloquium for his tremendous effort in preparation this program a grand success. My heartfelt thanks to all the teachers and non-teaching. I'm grateful to express my thanks to our ex-professor, Dr. Monideepa Bhattacharya. We love you for your active participation. Your presence always encourages us. To IT section cell, Mr. Somnath Das and other associated staff for their technical support to host the program in live in the YouTube. And last but not least, all the students of the Department of Botany. So this is a wonderful program and we appreciate all of you from the organizing committee. So thank you once again. Thank you all. Yes. Didi.